Are you ready to hear a scary story? Okay, then close your eyes, turn off the lights, and listen. There was once a house that screamed in the night. It wasn't the type of scream that was loud and drawn out like the scream of a woman who had just seen a ghost. It was more like the high-pitched yelp of someone who had just stepped on a Lego, the kind of sound that makes you wince. But it came from somewhere deep within the house, and every time it happened, it sounded closer than the last. The house was an old one, a big rambling Victorian with peeling paint and overgrown ivy. No one lived there anymore. In fact, no one had lived there for years. Townspeople said it was haunted, but no one knew by what or why. All they knew was that sometimes when the moon was just right, they could hear it screaming. One day a young couple decided they didn't care if it was haunted or not. They bought the house for cheap and moved right in. The first night went by without incident, but on the second night they heard it. Just before midnight, they were sitting on the couch watching TV when they heard it. A blood-curdling scream followed by heavy footsteps in the attic above them. The man turned pale, and his hands started shaking. He tried to act brave and casual, but his wife saw the fear in his eyes. She reached over and squeezed his hand. They sat in silence, listening for a few minutes, but nothing happened. Then suddenly they heard a crash followed by more footsteps. This time they were coming from the floor above them. My husband and I looked at each other, she later told her therapist, and I think we both knew we should leave. But something made us stay. Maybe it was the challenge of facing our fears, or maybe it was just that neither of us had ever backed down from a fight with our spouse. I didn't hear anything else that night, but after that, things started to happen more and more often. They would be eating dinner when plates and silverware would start flying through the air. Sometimes at night they would wake up to find their bed shaking violently. And every now and then, they would hear those footsteps again, pacing back and forth directly above their bedroom. But even though these things were happening almost every night, during the day the house was perfectly still. It was as though whatever was haunting, it only came out after dark. Finally, after 3 months of sleepless nights, the couple called a priest. Father Gabriel was an old, frail man, but he seemed confident that he could help. As he stood in their bedroom that night blessing the corner with holy water, he told them, "Don't worry, my children. Nothing evil can survive in the presence of the Lord." That night, they heard the footsteps in the attic again, but this time they were accompanied by voices. They sounded like children playing, but their laughter was sharp and cruel. Then they heard footsteps in the hallway outside their room. Slowly, slowly, they got closer and closer. As they stood there listening, Father Gabriel suddenly raised his head, his eyes wide with terror. "My God," he cried out, "whatever is up there is coming for me." The last thing the couple remembered was seeing the priest drop to his knees, and then everything went black. When they woke up, they found the priest lying dead on the floor. His eyes were wide open and staring. A single drop of blood hung from his nose. But the most disturbing thing was the look on his face. He wasn't scared or in pain. He was smiling. They called the police, but they didn't find anything unusual. The priest had died, they said, of a heart attack. There was no evidence of foul play, and so they let it go at that. But the next night, they heard the footsteps again. They were coming from inside their closet. When they opened the door, it was empty. Time they turned their backs, they heard the footsteps following them around the room. Finally, they ripped the closet door off its hinges. Behind it, they found a narrow passageway leading into the wall. It must have been used for storage, the wife said, because she couldn't see any other purpose for it. But the moment she stepped inside, the floor gave way under her feet, and she tumbled down into darkness. Her husband reached in and grabbed her ankle, but it was too late. She had fallen too far, and there was nothing he could do to stop her. Her leg was broken, and she couldn't move. The only thing she could do was scream. And then she heard his voice. It was right above her, whispering in her ear, "Why did you come here?" She tried to answer, but all that came out was a strangled cry. Suddenly, strong arms lifted her up and carried her away. She never saw her husband again. Sometimes when the moon is full, the townspeople say they can hear the woman screaming in the night. They say she's trapped inside the house, forever cursed to wander its halls and whisper its secrets to anyone who will listen. Some people even say that if you visit the house at midnight and knock on the front door, the woman will answer and tell you her story. But no one has ever been brave enough to test it. Many years later, an investigation into the mystery of the house was conducted. The local paranormal investigators uncovered some truly terrifying facts. First, they discovered the remains of Father Gabriel buried beneath the floorboards of the living room. But that wasn't what made them change color. When they pried open the closet where the woman had fallen, they found another secret passageway behind the bookshelf. The lead investigator stepped into the darkness and came face to face with a skeleton wearing a priest's collar. Then they found a hidden room filled with children's bones. And that's when they knew the truth about the house. The house wasn't haunted by just one spirit, it was haunted by many. And whoever was responsible for their deaths was still there, hiding in the shadows, waiting for someone to come along and join them in their eternal torment. Those paranormal investigators never finished their work. They fled the house in terror, never looking back. And since then, it stood empty and abandoned, a monument to the evil that lies within. Now, I don't know about you, but I think I need to lie down after hearing that story. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Now it's time for bed. Make sure your door is locked and your closet is empty. Have a good night.